I'm not sure if we've really talked about this, but one of our problems that we had from the moment we got this car was that there is a leak in the passenger side somewhere. Every time it rained, there was a puddle of water on my feet. And when we drove down here from New York, I had to get everything off the floor from my feet because it was raining the whole way down. So initially we thought it was just the seals on the doors that were old and rusted and needed a change. So we ordered some new seals for the door, and then it rained again. And so there's a hole in the passenger door that we bogged up and sealed there. So we thought maybe that's it. It's been about over a month in quarantine, and of course, it's a beautiful day every day. And the beaches are closed and the parks are closed, and it's been kind of like torture, but finally got some rain like 3 days ago, sometime this last weekend. And the morning we got out, the entire passenger floor was soaked again. And we were so confused and we had no idea what to do because it just seemed like we explored all our options. So we decided to follow the trickle of the water up the wall, the back wall of the passenger side, so like behind the glove compartment, and into the front of the car. And we found that the intake, I don't know what this is called, so bear with me here. The fresh air intake had rusted through, and there was a huge hole where in the area where the windscreen wiper motor was in, and there's the culprit. And we ended up pulling out the little fresh air intake compartment thing that was there, so the water would come in and then it would trickle around these sides and it would sit in the back of this. And as you can see, there's no more back of this. So now we have a huge hole in the front of our car, and Ben is gonna try to DIY some sort of compartment to cover the hole so we don't have any more leaks. Let me show you. That right there is the inside of the car. Right there. Let me show you from the inside. That's the glove compartment. Okay, so Ben is now here behind me, trying to come up with an answer to this hole that is A, really impossible to get through by hand, and B, has no extra parts anywhere on the internet. So we can't really replace it. There's no information on how to fix it. And so we're DIY the shit out of this, and hopefully it works.
With all the stores closed and a lack of materials and a lack of knowledge, it's a hard one to kind of get through. So it's going to be literally me piecing together parts like steel to put a jigsaw puzzle to try and fill in and waterproof the area. It's like underneath the front windscreen, basically.
It's been 2 days since we started working on the hole on top of our fresh air intake, and let me tell you, Ben, I'm very impressed with him because he has figured out a way to get something in there. Hopefully it works. It's not the prettiest sight, but thankfully no one will be seeing this. As long as it works, that's all that matters. We used some old convection oven parts, liquid nails, and some rivets, and have created this contraption.
Goes to show how hot it is out here. My little lens is just fogged up the moment that I walked outside the house. All right. We've been on a little bit of a race against weather. My watch actually says it's 12:23 and it says right now that it's going to thunderstorm at 2 p.m. and I can see some really dark clouds rolling in. I'm not really that worried about it because it hasn't rained for a while and I want the mango tree around the side to get a good drink. But I don't really want any more water in the car. I'm sure that this job would have been a lot easier and a lot of the other jobs that we've been doing would have been a lot easier if I had taken the dash out, but there's parts in there that are glued and we don't have new ones and we can't afford to buy new ones. So I've just left the dash in and I've been working through a hole that's about this big to try and form some sort of metal structure that can waterproof the section where the cold air comes into the car underneath the front windshield and it goes into the block. That was kind of a long-winded explanation, but the side note to this is that when I'm working on this car, a lot of the time I look at it and I'm like, wow, 30 years ago, the boffins at Toyota come up with things that are amazing. And I just go, without the technology, they somehow work out a mechanical way of doing something that has lasted 30 years. This is not one of those things. I don't think they really took into account that that space there is not something that you're told in the manual to check, and it's not really somewhere where it's easy to get to, so you wouldn't think to check it. So the little vents where the fresh air comes in near the windscreen wipers, obviously leaves get in there, which you wouldn't guess. And it's like seriously big leaves and like dirt and all these sorts of things, and that just flows to the sides where there's like a vent that kind of goes out and then down underneath the front fairings. The problem with that is that all those leaves build up and they block those little drain holes on either side. And on the passenger side of ours, where this fresh air intake was, this is what it ended up looking like. So this was riveted down, or welded down, spot welded in like 4 points, and then it was sealed around the rest of it. And as you can see at the back, this was the closest to the side of the car, where the leaves had all built up. It ended up really screwed, fucked. I don't know what you want me to say, but I was able to pull this out with very, very little effort with my hands. This isn't really usable anymore, and given the fact that I couldn't like hit anything with a hammer inside the hole, and I didn't really have the metal or the materials or the tools to sort of make something that was going to be perfectly fitting and then get this back in there and somehow reform this piece of metal that's like, it's just breaking off in my hands. So what I've done is I've used steel, which was leftover covers for old DVD players, and then there was some aluminium that we had left over, which was the back of Sophia's mum's old convection oven. And I've basically formed that into what I can sort of guess was what the curve of the underside used to look like. And then instead of this, I've created this. So I don't know whether you can see. So basically, this was the vent of the old convection oven. This was some aluminium tube that I bought to actually add some structure to the bottom of the car. But I've joined two pieces up, and this is going to be my new vent. Obviously, it's going to let through a little bit less air. From what research I can do, I don't think it's going to matter that much. You can see the way they designed this one. So this was sitting level with the shell of the car on the inside, and then this little lip was facing towards the driver's side. So what happens is the water comes in, and then like where the windscreen wipers is, and must rush along in torrential downpours and hit this. And so they've obviously realized this and made a design change, and this lip is supposedly supposed to stop the water from going into this thing. My fix for that is that I'm going to make this a lot higher. So this one's going to stick out of the car about 4 inches. I just realized that it does make a lot more noise, so we might get a sucking noise coming into the car when we turn on the air conditioning or the fan blower. But really, like in this car, everything's noisy. The engine's noisy. We luckily have some good tires that aren't that noisy, but generally it's quite noisy. So I don't even know whether you're going to hear this over the sound of the engine. Storm incoming. So, as you can see in the sky here, that it looks pretty scary. It's supposedly we've got 4 days of rain ahead, so that's why I needed to rush and try and get this thing cleaned up and waterproof. So behind me right there is the hole, and I've got my little vent in. Yeah, there's a few little leaks. I just poured some paint on it to see where it was leaking, and I was hoping that the paint could kind of fill a few of the little cracks. So I just got to fill a few things on the inside, but for the most part, I think we've got it. It's not super pretty, and it's probably not the right way to do it, but I think it's going to work, and I think it's going to last a couple of years. I've like just hit the outside where it was rusty with some POR 15, and all inside on top of where I put all the aluminium and the steel in, it's all POR 15. Some of it's leaking through right now, so I've got to fill a few little cracks, but other than that, I think we're good. See my handiwork now with the windscreen wiper motor back installed. You can just sort of see where the crack was on the side. The windscreen wiper motor just needs to cover it. This does need to be down though. We need a new seal for our bonnet, but yeah, other than that, everything seems to be watertight.
So we just had some rain, and now we're gonna check to see if the seal on our car worked. Follow me. Ready? It's sealed! Woo!
It's dry?
It's dry, it's dry, and sealed, and dry. Good job, Boo. Good job.